Hello everyone! I've showed you in a couple videos now about how to build your own design system. The links to those two videos are below if you're interested. Now, I wanted to take a look at some best practices for what to do when you're building your design system. Now, when I say best practices, take a step back here. I'm talking very subjectively. You might have an opinion on whatever I present, and that's okay. I'm just trying to show you more ways of approaching a problem, and these are some ways that I thought were super clever. At Discord, we have a design system. We need to keep track of colors, padding, text sizes, etc., and keep it consistent across all of our apps. One thing that Discord does that's really interesting is how we handle the variance on text components. Normally, when you build a text component in your design system, you tend to separate the size of the text along with the weight of the text. And each of those are separate props that can be passed in. But what if you could combine those two in a clever way? So instead of having two separate things for size and weight, you could have one variant that has the size / the weight. Most of the time when you're using a text component, you tend to define both of these. So this could clean up some of your code. Now let's try to implement this in our own design system. So here I created a text component, nothing's in it. So let's create it. So let's come in here and define some text styles. So I'll say const text styles equals CVA. Now we don't have any initial styles, so I'll just leave an empty array here. Let's import these. And now let's define some variants. So for these variants, we want size and weight. So let's define size. And let's say I want small, medium, and large. And now for weight, similarly, probably medium, semi-bold, and bold. Let's also add light. So here I define some variants. I have size, small, medium, large, and then I have weight, light, normal, semi-bold, and bold. I use normal instead of medium here because it would be weird to have medium / medium, but do whatever you want. Now I'm creating these textile props that basically grab the variants that we defined earlier and create them as props. So here, if you hover over, you can see that this has the size and all the options that we passed above, and weight with all the options that we passed above. So this is what the user would input, right? So they would say size small, weight light, etc. But we don't want that. We want this to be size / weight. So how do we do that? We use some fancy TypeScript. So here I'm going to export interface text props, and this is going to extend textile props. Now, like I mentioned earlier, these textile props have size and weight. We don't want that though. We want the user to pass in one prop named variant that's basically going to be a mix of the size and the weight. So what we're going to do here is we're going to extend, but we're going to omit from these textile props size and the weight. So now down here, we need to define that variant like I mentioned earlier. Now you could call this anything. You could call it like a style, whatever you want. This is basically the prop that's going to be passed in when you use the text component. I'll just call it variant because I'm very uncreative. We're going to use template literals here to keep track of the blank / blank, right? So here we're going to have a template literal, and this is going to be the first thing, and this is going to be the second thing. So here we want size, and then here we want / weight. We're going to grab textile props, and we're going to grab the size. Really cool TypeScript thing there. Same thing here, we're going to grab the weight. Now if you look at the variant, there's a bunch of these undefined. So how do we fix this? We can wrap this in a non-nullable. Now non-nullable basically removes all the nullable items, and that includes undefined, null, etc. So let's put these in a non-nullable. And now if we hover over variant, would you look at that? It's basically showing the size / the weight and all the variations of it that you could possibly have. And now our text props, not only do they have a variant, but they also take children. So we're just going to pass in children here, which is just going to be a React node. So now let's write the component. So we're going to export function text, and we're going to grab the text props. So we're going to just spread them. So we're going to grab the variant and the children, and this will be text props. And I'm also going to just spread any other props like this to just pass them down. Cool. So now we have this. And here we're going to just return what we want this to look like. So here we have a return, and this is going to return a div. And the class name here is going to take the textiles, and then it's going to pass in. Now look at this. Our textiles are defined via size and weight. But here we have a variant, which is a combination of the two. So we're going to have to grab both the size and the weight separately. So how are we going to do that? So let's come in here real quick and we'll define size and weight in this little, not really tuple, this array, this destructured array here. And what we're going to do is call split on variant. So since we know that variant is size and weight split by a slash, we can just grab it like this. However, the types of size and weight here are string, but we can't have this type string match up to the types that we defined up here. So what we're going to do is another fancy TypeScript thing. A lot of TypeScript in this video. We're going to cast it using as, and we're going to use an array here, similarly to how we're grabbing them out here. And so now our first item is going to be textiles props, and this will be size. And then our second item is going to be textiles props, and this will be weight. Now, if you look at size, it has small, medium, large. So yeah, we're basically grabbing whatever we split and we're casting it as this is the first items type and this is the second items type. So now what we do for this textiles is we just pass down the size and the weight and any other props. And we're going to spread those. And sweet. And then since we have children, those are going to go right here. And we're going to save and format. Now this looks like a great text component. And now let's see how you would use this. So here in my home component, I'm going to use this text component that we created. So here I put in the text component. So this is saying I need a variant. So let's do a variant here. And now if you look at the type, let me write this again. You can see it autocomplete all the types that we had earlier, right? So let's say I want something to be large and bold, and I want this to just say, hello world. Now, if I take a look at what it renders, you can see here it's rendering in the large font, bold, and it's saying hello world. Now to test this, I'll just do it in small just so you can see the difference. So here we'll do small. Now the text size shrunk, but it's still in bold. Now let's try light. Ooh, look at that. Now, obviously this is a very opinionated way to design a text component. When I first saw this at Discord, I didn't really like the fact that we were putting together the size and the weight. But the more that I worked with it, it matched up to what we had in Figma, and it also kind of felt really easy. So now one more thing to talk about is how do we do stories for something like this, because it's a little complicated. So I already wrote all this here just because it's a little hard to write and explain at the same time. So what I decided to do was have 3 different sort of pages, one with all the small size fonts, one with medium, and one with large. And then what I also had to do was define an interface for story props that is a variance list. So instead of taking just one variant, it would take in a list of variants, and then I could render all of those in a list so you could see them. If you look at small here, we're calling a render function, so this is a little bit different. This was recently introduced. I'll link it down below if you're curious to see. So here we just grab the variants from the story props, and we just map across those and just render the text with all those different variants. And now down here are the args, and so here's the variants that I'm defining for this. It's missing small light, which I can add real quick. So if you go to Storybook, if you go to text, here you can see all of them rendered in a row. This is also a super opinionated way of doing this in Storybook. I couldn't find anything better than this. I'm also kind of new to Storybook and haven't used it too much, but hopefully this helps. So yeah, I hope you like this video. It's a little bit shorter and not as long as my others, but starting next week, I have some really fun videos planned. So hopefully that'll be something you're interested in. Make sure you subscribe and leave a like. And if there's anything you want to see more, leave a comment down below. Okay, bye.